Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are really cutting through all the noise to give you the blueprint for launching a successful and, importantly, a compliant nonprofit.
Yeah, a small or startup nonprofit.
Exactly. We know you have a powerful mission, but our sources make it really clear that, a mission by itself just isn't enough. You need that structure.
That's so true. The research, it points to this real tension. Nonprofits are seen as this major hope, which is great. But the path from just an idea to a viable charity, it's full of legal traps. You have to do it the right way.
And doing it the right way means finding the right help. So right up front, if you are serious about this, if you need practical, clear educational videos that can demystify the whole process, just go to the website smallnonprofitcourses.com. They have educational videos and more, all for small and startup nonprofits.
And that's our goal today, really, to give you that high-level view of the legal groundwork, the training, the planning. If you get these fundamentals wrong, well, you risk more than just failure. You risk losing public trust.
Okay, so let's get into it. The absolute start line, the material is crystal clear. It all begins with knowing the laws and rules.
Yeah.
So if a founder is sitting there with this big idea, what are the non-negotiable first steps, the real compliance checklist?
Right. So this first phase is all about legitimacy. It's about avoiding those legal troubles later on. The state, the federal government, they don't really care about your passion, right? They care about compliance.
Okay, so give us that checklist. What's number one?
Number one, you have to complete the forms with the state and or the federal government. This is your legal birth certificate, really. It formalizes your existence.
Like getting your 501c3 status and all that?
Exactly. The ABCs of forming it. Then number two, you have to have a board. A real functioning board. It's not optional. It is legally required for governance.
Okay. And third?
Third, you have to write a mission statement.
All right. So that list forms, board, mission. It sounds a little dry, a bit like administrative homework. But what's the deeper insight here? Why do these matter so much beyond just checking a box?
Because that's the scaffolding. That's what you build trust on. Think about the mission statement. It is not just a marketing slogan.
Right.
It legally defines your charitable purpose to the IRS and to the public. If that's poorly written, you could actually get into legal trouble because you can't prove your activities match your tax-exempt status. It's your anchor.
So a bad mission statement is actually a legal risk. I never thought of it that way.
It is, yeah.
And what about the board? I know a lot of founders, they want to keep total control.
And that's a mistake. The board has what's called a fiduciary duty. By law, they oversee the organization's assets. This is how you set the organization up for success, by diversifying that leadership and accountability.
So when you do all this right, you're actually building credibility.
You're building trust with the public, exactly. If you rush this part, that instability, it follows you. It affects every grant you write, every fundraiser you hold. It's foundational.
Okay, so if that first part is about legal intent, the next part is about turning that intent into reality. This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah, this is the strategy part.
Right. Once the paperwork's moving, you have to think about sustainability. What does the material say are the key things that make sure a nonprofit actually lasts?
We move really quickly from, compliance to actual viability. And the sources point to this, what I'd call a planning triad. First, you need an achievable strategic plan.
Okay, and I like that you stressed achievable.
Yes, because
Right.
it means setting realistic, measurable goals. Not just the big dream, but what are you going to do in the next 12 to 18 months?
That's a huge distinction. A lot of people mix those two up.
They do. Okay, second, you need clear marketing messages that actually connect with your audience. You could be solving the biggest problem in the world, but if your message is confusing, you've already failed.
And the third piece of that triad.
It's the one that underpins everything. Revenue. You have to get a strong revenue plan in place.
Okay, let's drill down on that. Because when a founder hears fundraising, they might just think, bake sale. What's the strategic difference here?
The strategic difference is diversification and predictability. A strong revenue plan isn't just about donations. It's a mix. It's grants, maybe some earned income, individual giving, corporate partners. If you only rely on one of those, you're just not stable.
And of course, no founder can do that by themselves. That brings us to people. What do the sources say about, building your team, the staff and the board?
It's critical. The phrase used is to surround yourself with committed staff and board members. The founder might be the spark, but the team is the engine.
A good board does more than just approve a budget, right?
Oh, absolutely. They bring expertise, they bring their networks, they bring credibility. This is where you need people with different skills, finance, legal, marketing, all pulling in the same direction.
And what about modern tools? We
Mm.
can't talk strategy without mentioning, technology and partnerships.
For sure. Tech is not optional anymore. It's how you reach people, how you manage data, how you run the back office efficiently. And partnerships with other nonprofits. I mean, for a small organization, a good partner can basically triple your impact without tripling your budget.
This brings up a really critical point, one that I think founders miss a lot. They think, okay, I'll hire a lawyer, I'll hire an accountant, I'm covered.
Mhm.
But the sources say the founder themselves still need to know exactly what needs to occur.
Hmm.
Why is that self-education so important? Can't you just delegate it all?
That's a great question. And the answer is delegation is one thing, but ignorance is another. It's dangerous. If you, as the founder, don't understand the basics, you can't even ask the right questions of the professionals you hire.
So you can't properly oversee their work.
Exactly. You become completely reliant on them, which gets expensive and it slows everything down. You need that working knowledge base to stay in control.
So if time is short, which it always is for a founder, where should they focus their learning to, as the research says, make a bigger impact more quickly?
The materials point to three really high-yield areas. First is board management, not just having a board, but how to recruit them, engage them, and actually turn them into fundraisers and partners.
Okay, that makes sense. What's second?
Second is specialized fundraising methods. So moving beyond just asking for money to things like sophisticated grant writing or real donor relationship management.
And third?
Growth strategies, specifically how to scale up your services without scaling up your problems or, burning all your cash.
So these skills help the founder and the board develop their leadership and, bottom line, find revenue.
That is the core insight, yeah. There are resources out there called things like Playing to Win and Get It Right the First Time. The message is clear. Mistakes cost you.
So education at the start prevents expensive fixes later.
It is the foundation of speed and scale. You empower your team to drive the mission forward without constantly needing to call in expensive help.
The journey into the nonprofit world can be so confusing, especially for people coming from a business background.
It's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, and what I love about the source material is that it has content designed specifically to clear up these common misunderstandings. So let's talk about those.
You have to start with the legal structures. You have to know the difference between nonprofit and for-profit. The main thing is that a nonprofit can't distribute profits to owners. That's the core.
Which leads right to that first huge decision point. For-profit or nonprofit, which one should I choose?
Right. You have to figure out which structure actually fits your mission and your revenue model best. It's a massive fork in the road.
And even once you've picked the nonprofit path, there are still some nuances that trip people up. What are a couple of other common structural questions the materials tackle?
One of the biggest is the difference between a foundation and a nonprofit. People use those terms interchangeably, but they're not the same.
How so?
Well, in simple terms, most small startups are public charities. They get money from the broad public. Foundations, especially private ones, mostly exist to give money to those charities. Very different rules.
Okay, and what's that other big, universally misunderstood question?
Who owns a nonprofit?
Yes, the big one.
And the quick answer is no one. Nobody owns it. The assets are legally held in a trust for the public good. That one fact changes everything about how you govern and operate.
I do appreciate that the research gives a strong dose of reality here, too. It's not all inspiration. It's hard.
It is so hard. That's why there's material on things like 5 things they don't tell you about starting a nonprofit, and even 5 things to do and you get discouraged. This stuff takes real resilience.
And it really seems tailored to our audience. The startup, the small nonprofit founder, there are even data points mentioned, like about 75% of nonprofits are small organizations.
Exactly. The vast, vast majority of charities operate at this smaller scale, and their needs are different. This knowledge is targeted so a small founder doesn't get buried in information meant for a giant institution.
So, to wrap up our deep dive here, founding a nonprofit is, without a doubt, hard work. You can't skip the legal steps, you can't skip the strategy. But the sources are clear that if you do it with the right preparation, the result is a great feeling. It's something capable of enriching society in meaningful ways.
That's right. But the complexity, it's just so often underestimated. It takes discipline. But the good news is it's all manageable if you get the right resources and the right knowledge from the start.
Which brings us to maybe the final, most provocative thought for you, the listener. The biggest question isn't just how to start a nonprofit. The first question you have to ask is starting a nonprofit the best way to achieve your goal?
That is such a crucial question.
Yeah, and it requires some deep thinking before you even think about filing single form.
And we want you to be able to answer that question with confidence. If the answer is yes, then remember, knowledge is your single most important asset.
So to get that knowledge, to get those essential tools and educational videos that cover every single step we've talked about today, where should people go?
Go to the website, smallnonprofitcourses.com.
That's smallnonprofitcourses.com. Find the educational videos and all the resources you need for small and startup nonprofits.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.